Spoiler warning, this video contains very minor spoilers for Tokyo Ghoul. If you don't want to know anything about it, well then, why did you click on this video in the first place? So Tokyo Ghoul is not a series I expected to find myself reading, because I don't really like the thriller horror genres. In fact, I kinda hate them. So the last thing I expected was to find myself so engrossed in this manga that I sat on the couch all day and read the entire thing on Viz. Tokyo Ghoul is a series that I've known about for a long while. The anime was recommended to me when I was first starting up with anime, and it was a series I found myself encountering, with some of the quiet kids in my class reading one of the volumes in the back of the classroom, or someone wearing a ghoul mask on Halloween. But I stayed out of the loop by not giving the series a chance, mostly because of its genre. That was until I found out one of my normie friends had started down the path of the weeb and had watched the series and mentioned it, and on my pride as a weeb, I couldn't allow to be out-weebed by a normie. So I pulled the trigger on reading it. And holy shit, I ended up reading what became my favorite manga in the span of a day. So Tokyo Ghoul is a manga series by Sui Ishida that serialized in Young Jump from September of 2011 to September of 2014. It accumulated to 144 chapters collected in 14 tankobon volumes. The series follows a character named Ken Kaneki, a boy who lives in a version of Tokyo that, in addition to humans, is populated by ghouls, monsters that appear human but feed on human flesh to survive. After he is targeted and attacked by one of these ghouls, he ends up getting an organ transplant from his attacker and ends up as a half-ghoul, a being that is for all intents and purposes a normal ghoul, but only one of their eyes goes all crazy when they are fighting or feeding. So that is where the title Tokyo Ghoul comes from. The fact that he is a ghoul living in Tokyo. Gotta love on-the-nose titles. As I said before, I don't like horror or thrillers. Or suspense even, to be honest. In fact, I'm the kind of weirdo who isn't able to handle watching awkward situations in movies. As I said in last week's Angel Beats video, I'm pretty screwed up. But anyway, returning to the topic on hand. Tokyo Ghoul didn't change the fact that I don't like horrors or thrillers, because while it has all the creepy stuff like ghouls feasting on human flesh, torture scenes, and other stuff like that, Tokyo Ghoul puts a heavy emphasis on its characters, and Kaneki's descent into insanity through his newfound identity crisis. He is unsure of whether he is human or a ghoul, and whether he has a place in either world, or whether he has a place in both. That is truly the main focus of Tokyo Ghoul, as we watch Kaneki struggle with his identity while also trying to adapt to his new way of life, and a fact of his new life that he hates more than anything. He needs to eat humans, those he still considers his own kind. What I like especially about these sorts of themes and how they work in Tokyo Ghoul is the fact that it emits a theme that you would think to be common here, the theme of what it means to be human. A theme that can be an amazing story when written well, but most of the time just comes off as cheesy and lazy. Instead, we see Kaneki struggle with who he is, and how he deals with the things that he has to do to survive in his new life. Killing and eating humans being the main thing he struggles with early on. Even when coming up against ghoul investigators, specialized cops that exist for the sole reason of killing ghouls, he stops himself from killing them so he doesn't turn into a murderer. But over time, and through gruesome and tragic experiences, we see Kaneki gain resolve and change into a character into something almost unrecognizable from where he started out in Chapter 1. Near the end, turning into a crazed killer at times who could barely control himself. The way he progressed was also fantastic, as when reading the story and reflecting back on it, I got the sense that Ishida knew where he wanted to go with Kaneki's character and the story as a whole, but didn't exactly know how he was going to get there, which is a dangerous game to play when writing a story, but in this case, I think it worked beautifully. For those who don't analyze every detail of a plot like I do, allow me to overanalyze once more, but on the production side this time. So anyone who has done a lot of creative writing will be able to tell you the key differences in story structure and planning. There are 3 types of planning I've come across personally. Those who plan every step of the way to their narrative destination, those who know their destination but don't know the entire path to get there or don't know the path at all, and those who effectively start driving with a concept with no clue where the hell it is going to end up at the end of the day. Each of these approaches comes with its own risks, but they can all be equally good depending on the idea and the skill of the writer. To give some examples, Angel Beats is an anime that is obviously planned out from beginning to end, as most of the stories in its genre are. It has steady and easy to follow development of both the narrative and characters, and you can start to feel drawing to a close when you are 2 or so episodes to the end. A series with no idea where the hell it was going from the beginning would be something like Sword Art Online. Now, we could debate all day about the writing quality of SAO and where it should have stopped, but like it or not, it is still going, currently in the Unital Ring arc. The series takes a path of progression that is pretty comparable to a drunk driver using his knees to steer while also getting high at the same time. It moves everywhere and is lacking a sense of direction between the arcs, but then there is the category that I think Tokyo Ghoul falls into. That of a series that knows where it's going, but unsure of how it's going to get there and what's going to happen along the way. Personally, I find these are the most exciting to both write and read because of the unexpected nature of things and how progression will make sense, but also keep an air of suspense that makes it hard to tell what is coming next. These kinds of stories often have a progression that can be described as messy at times, but that is why it works so well in a series like this. Ghouls are constantly under the threat of the doves, and will be hit by large-scale raids on their strongholds and or hideouts without any sort of notice. And that is portrayed quite well each time it happens, as the ghouls don't have the luxury of time to figure out how to repel the attacks. And the whole concept of ghouls is inherently messy in and of itself, because they are creatures that prey on human flesh, and drink blood like wine at times. But when there's this sort of progression, you are almost always going to hit a wall and be met with the end of the story. That happens here too, but we see a build up to the wall that we end up running into along with Kaneki, and are met with an ending that is swift, cold, and brutal, perfectly matching the overall tone of the manga. I think the ending that we get once we are into the chapter 140s would have been appropriate to close the series with, but ended up being how the groundwork was laid for its sequel in Tokyo Ghoul Re, which is, in my opinion, an unnecessary sequel, but I'm so glad that we got it because it has some of my favorite storytelling tropes hidden throughout it. But that is going to be a topic for another video once I finish that manga, which should probably be within the next couple hours after recording this. Tokyo Ghoul is my favorite manga and is from a genre I normally hate. Of course, there are other exceptions to the rule, for example, The Promised Neverland and another, which are also series I love that are horror/thrillers, but Tokyo Ghoul has pretty much blown all the other manga I've read out of the park with just how much I enjoyed it and how glued to it I was. Granted, I have been on a bit of a sign-in spree recently, but the tone of this manga was something else on top of all the stuff I've gone over already in this video. It's dark, gruesome, cold, brutal, gory, and pretty much any other words along those lines. So yeah, that is going to be it for today's video. What are your thoughts on the manga? If you have different thoughts on how the progression works in Tokyo Ghoul, let me know. If you think that Tokyo Ghoul Re is a necessary sequel, hell, let me know that too. But yeah, as always, my name is Item, and thank you for watching. Hey, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I'll stream 4 days a week over on Twitch, so make sure to check that out for streams and such. I may even be live right now. But if I'm not, there are always more videos to check out on the channel if you are interested. And without further ado, have a good day.